This light is way too harsh. Please stand. That's better. Hey everyone. Today I'm going to be going over some simple tricks and techniques that I use that you can use as well to help change boring and uninteresting shots and make them look much more cinematic and professional. Let's go.
Perfect.
So what I used were just some trees and some bushes that I found outside my house, as well as this Dubai shot glass that I found. Okay, to get us started, the first technique that I used in the B-roll that I just showed you was to add movement. Okay? Now movement is incredible in the way that it can sort of transform the footage from being somewhat shallow and 2D to being a more in-depth 3D piece of footage. It just adds depth to the video. Now, whether that's just a simple pan or a tilt or just rotating around your subject, if you add movement to your videos, it'll just make them a lot more visually appealing and interesting because the perspective is going to constantly be changing and it just appeals more to your audience. Now onto the second technique that I used, and if you didn't already notice, in the video, I shot it in golden hour, well known as sunrise and sunset. There's usually an hour period between both where the light's at its best, and that is why they call it golden hour. It adds some nice lens flare effects if you get the sun behind your subject. There's just a lot of things that you can do with golden hour that you can experiment with, and you can do all sorts of stuff. But shooting in golden hour is always the best time to shoot a video, no matter what video. It's better than shooting it at noon because noon is just flat light. It's just not interesting. And the third technique or trick that I used was that I shot the video in a shallow depth of field. A really shallow depth of field. The only thing that was in focus was the subject that I was shooting, and everything else was just a moving blur. And that is the best way to achieve like a really dreamy or fantasy vibe to your videos, and it just makes them look a lot more cinematic and professional. So I achieved that with my Canon 50mm lens. It's not a big lens, but it's very helpful in that the aperture can open up really wide so you can get a way more shallow depth of field. Phone cameras can't really shoot on a shallow depth of field, so if you shoot with a very shallow depth of field, your footage will instantly look more professional. Now, I'm sure phones will achieve that soon, but for now, it's professional game. So the fourth technique that I used was that I shot the video with a prism in front of the camera lens. It was completely out of focus, so you couldn't tell it was there, but I used this little glass prism thingy-majig. And what it does, it adds a really cool light split or just some kind of lens flare effect that's really unique. And it's really easy to do because all you really need to do is just place it really close to the camera lens, and then you can sort of maneuver it. It works better when there's like a direct light source behind you because it sort of splits the light off, but you can sort of tell how that would work. Now onto the last technique that I used, and it's pretty new to me. I've just started doing it. It's called free lensing, and it's a very unique thing with cameras. It's basically when you detach the lens from the front of the camera and then you sort of just maneuver it around like that, and the light sort of, it still passes through into the camera sensor, but it does it on a really skewed angle, and it creates some really nice blurred, like really dreamy, blurred, abstract effects. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I'm probably just going to do another video just in the future about it because it is incredible, the things that you can do with free lensing. So yeah, that's just some of the techniques that I use to turn some boring footage of some leaves and a shot glass into something really nice and cinematic and professional looking, in my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you got some value out of this video and that you can use these techniques in your everyday life to just up your video game to that next level. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week. Peace.